When you say I'm born in the wrong body, is there some way that this can be verified for me so that I can understand what that means?
Why do you need verification on somebody else's gender? Is it really that important to you?
People have always believed things about themselves, like that they are God, or they are Julius Caesar, or they're from another planet.
This is a stupid argument.
But the only thing that can transcend the body is something of a spiritual nature, something like a soul.
So now he's saying y'all believe in trans people but not in God, but then you're saying your soul, which is given to you by God, is telling you you're trans, but you don't believe in God who told you you're trans? This is crazy.
I don't think people should have to put their favorite Bible verse on their name tag.
Not to sound insensitive, but that was insensitive, but I think I do mean it. This video contains subject matter which may be inappropriate for some viewers. Hello, you stunning woman on the go. Welcome back to my channel. My name is David, and you are watching Dismantling Hate, the series where I find some outrageous online content and we react to it with sharp analysis, unapologetic resistance, and just enough comedy to keep us from losing our minds. Today we're going to be looking at Brian Holdsworth. Brian Holdsworth. And the description on his channel reads, I'm a struggling Catholic thinker, apologist, writer, speaker, and communication professional. I'm making video commentaries on topics I find interesting with a focus on culture, morality, and religion, informed by my experience as a practicing Catholic. The video that caught my eye is quite simply called The Trans Religion. And the description of this video reads, gender dysphoria occurs when people feel that they are in the wrong body. But if that body is wrong, how can we trust the feelings that it produces? Either the whole biochemical makeup of this person needs correction, or it doesn't, and their psychology and self-perception needs correction. Now maybe at that point they might say, this is way more than feelings. This is something I experience within the deepest aspect of my being and nature. Perhaps within my soul even, something that transcends the body and the physical form. But the only thing that can transcend the body is something of a spiritual nature. Something like a soul. It's well written, and I'm surprised.
You're a hater.
So I'm gonna slide my bad self on over, roll the intro, and we're gonna get into it. Dismantling Hate starts now. And all that ham. All That Ham by Roger Smith.
You don't have to be like every second.
So I hope you're ready to convert into this new trans religion, because this is your moment. Have it. Oh, very regal.
Gender dysphoria occurs when someone suffers distress at the inconsistency between their body and their self-perception as being a gender that is different from what their body portrays. So, for example, you could have someone for whom everything that can be observed about their body tells us that they are male, from their reproductive organs, their bone structure, even all the way down to...
You know what, that is one of my favorite anti-trans arguments, is that when archaeologists dig you up in a million years, they're gonna know you were a man. Great, good for them. I don't care. It doesn't really matter to me at that point because I won't be around for it, so have at it. You can say whatever you want when I'm gone. You're gonna miss me when I'm gone.
Every cell in their body. But this presentation would stand in sharp contrast to their own perception of themselves, which in that case would be female. And when people experience this kind of disparity, you'll often hear them say things like, I was born in the wrong body. Their body communicates one thing, but something to them more substantially true about themselves is incompatible with that body. So either their body is wrong or their self-perception is wrong. But either way, it's a big claim that they are making.
First things first here, I do believe his teleprompter is just a little bit underneath his camera, so he's kind of giving this uncanny valley look at me while I'm watching this. I don't know if you felt that as well. Second of all, I am in love with the color of this man's hair, the beard, the top. It's so gorgeous and beautiful. I love how it's getting... That's the train horn, so there's probably a car on the tracks. Third of all, he's buttoned up very tight. And number 4, the most important part here, even if you are asserting the argument that trans people are not born in the wrong body, they're making this active choice, it's a mental disorder, which he's essentially building to here, right? Even if you do make that argument, let's say you're right. Why wouldn't you just let people have the autonomy to do what they want with their bodies? There are so many choices we get to make as human beings that influence the way our body looks. I can destroy mine with junk food, but the girl down the street can't modify her body to feel better, So I guess my point here is that there are so many worse things you could do to your body. Because I'm sure transitioning puts stress on your body, but everything puts stress on your body. You're a human being having a life experience. Let's keep going.
Has serious implications for society, as we've already seen. This isn't just a private personal matter when elite athletics are thrown into
Oh my god. Okay, Riley Gaines literally never goes away, does she? Okay, so this was a swim competition. Okay, so to give you the long and short of it, the athlete on the far left is Leah Thomas, a trans woman, and she participated in a swim meet, and she tied for 3rd. So you might notice here it's 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and Leah Thomas is here for 3rd, but the person that she tied with isn't there for 3rd. And the person who isn't in this picture is named Riley Gaines. Riley Gaines took one look at this and went, wow, that's so unfair that you got to take the picture with the 3rd place trophy and I didn't. So now I'm just going to build a conservative grifter career on top of this because that trans woman beat me. That's so unfair. Women aren't safe, blah, blah, blah. And the point of sharing this, I believe, from this creator is that they're trying to really show that trans women would so obviously have a biological advantage because look how tall she is. There are so few trans athletes. Why are we trying to take it out on such a small part of the population that have always existed? Mary, they've always been here. It's just now they're allowed to come outside, and that's a problem for some people. Yikes.
When medical resources need to be allocated for treating either the body or the mind. When
yes, of course it is. It's called healthcare.
Professional policies dictate that we have to introduce ourselves by this internalized gender since it might be inconsistent with our external appearance. And
okay, yeah, sure.
The list just keeps going on and on. We end up having to participate in this.
The list goes on and on if you're a little snowflake, I believe, would be that. Because the list doesn't really go on and on if you approach the world in such a way to just be kind and not make any assumptions about people. The list is nothing. You would treat everybody the same and just get to know them and be kind to everyone.
Understanding of human sexuality. And since those are the implications, I think everyone has the right to say, how do I know that your claim is correct? When you say I'm born in the wrong body, is there some way that this can be verified for me so that I can understand what that means?
Why do you need verification on somebody else's gender? Is it really that important to you? Like now I want to go out and sit down at a table of trans people and be like, so convince me and just wait. This is the same vein of like, I deserve to have control over what other people do with their bodies. And it's giving fascism. It is. It's feeling a little bit fascist, right?
The person in reply might say, well, I just told you. Why isn't that enough? Why?
Yeah, why do you need more than that? You don't even need to be told. Just be nice.
My testimony or my lived experience enough of the evidence that you need? Well, because we live in a scientific age, right? Don't we?
We live in a scientific age, yet this man is a Catholic. Sure.
I can't count the number of times someone has told me to trust the science or that scientific
He's an anti-vaxxer too, I can feel it.
This tells us such and such, therefore it's true. And what is modern science based on? It's based on the idea that you don't adopt a certain truth claim without verification. It needs to be independently confirmed through observation or empirical measurement. That's what the modern physical sciences insist on. Rene Descartes.
Then how is he religious? I'm really stuck on that point.
One of the fathers of modern science said...
I'm sorry, he's not looking at the camera, is he? Like, I can feel his presence. I felt the presence of the enemy, but I feel like he's looking down a little bit. Like if I was talking to the camera like this the whole time, Isn't that weird? Because I'm looking at you, but I'm looking down. It's creepy.
Quote, if you would be a real seeker after truth, it is necessary that at least once in your life you doubt, as far as possible, all things.
Okay.
And then Francis Bacon, who was another leading thinker credited for instigating the scientific revolution, said, if a man will begin with certainties, he shall end in doubts. But if he will be content to begin with doubts, he shall end in certainties.
Okay.
Now, I don't agree with Descartes or Bacon.
Oh.
I am told
Then why the fuck did you share them? Because those sounded fine to me.
this is what it means to be a scientifically minded person. I certainly have heard it countless times as it relates
So is he saying I don't believe? What?
to religion or God's existence. So if we really are a scientifically oriented civilization, as people keep insisting that we are to me,
Whoa, what a complex argument of getting there, right? He's saying, how do all you people out there, he's not positioning himself against only trans people, he's positioning himself against atheists and anybody who is not subscribe to the same specific God belief as him. Oh, he's hitting everyone. If all you atheists out there believe in science and not God, then how do you believe in trans people? There's a lot of subtext, and this is produced pretty well. Like, he's got the nice background, he looks great, he's wearing a color that suits him. Visually, this man is beautiful, but he's becoming more mid the more I hear him talk, which is usually how that goes.
nothing amiss in us expecting that some novel claim of truth be put through that kind of scrutiny and skepticism. What's the evidence? Where is the proof that a person...
I guess the problem with this argument is that if somebody is saying they don't believe in God, I mean, you can't force somebody to believe something, but if you're pressuring me into this God belief, that affects me a lot more than pushing a trans belief on me. Like somebody saying something about themselves and then somebody saying something about you. Nobody's going up to anyone on the street saying, you're trans, you're trans, you're trans. They're coming up and saying, you should believe in God, you should believe in God, you should believe in God. If you just leave trans people alone. In this example, trans people are going out in groups, knocking on doors, trying to convert people. That's not the same thing at all. This is probably the most sophisticated argument in video that we've ever seen on this channel. I'm impressed, but in the bad way.
As if our professional, medical, governmental, and educational institutions are expected to rearrange themselves to affirm and accommodate this claim, then it must be grounded in something factual and objective.
What is being reorganized? A gender-inclusive bathroom? Pronouns? That's reorganizing everything? Oh, buddy, get in a school. Everything needs to be reorganized in there, and inclusive language is not one of them.
Kind of thing that is necessary for community consensus. But as soon as we start asking for some kind of verifiable evidence, we're met with silence. There is none. There is,
but also why do you need it about what other people do with their bodies?
Proof that this gender identity exists in objective, observable, measurable reality, except for...
Even let's say it doesn't. Who cares? Weird.
That person's feelings. They feel that way. They feel that they are female, even though everything that can be observed about them says that they are male. And those feelings should be enough, we're often told. But as soon as we settle on that as the essential piece of evidence the whole claim rests upon, I would say that we run into a massive contradiction. Because feelings, our emotions, those are caused by the biochemical systems of our bodies. Our emotions are contingent upon our bodies. But we've just been told with respect to sex and gender, a person who is trans or experiencing gender dysphoria has a body that is wrong. It's conveying a sex that is wrong and in need of correction.
Okay, so now he's saying that if trans people feel they're born in the wrong body, then everything must be wrong in their body, which includes their brains. And if their brains are wrong in their body, and brains are responsible for feelings, then that deems your feelings about you being born in the wrong body as incorrect, because everything about your body is incorrect, which includes your brain. That's not an impressive argument. And that took so much brain power for me to understand what he just said there. We're just running in circles. There's more than one system at work in only your brain. You can have feelings about something, and those feelings can be correct about that something, while at the same time you are struggling with something in different parts of the brain. Different things happen in different parts of the brain. This is a stupid argument. I would stand to reason that the kind of people who would be watching this video wouldn't even understand what he's saying or like understand this argument. They would just sit there because the production value is high and be like, yeah, what he said, and not even really think about it, you know?
It's the same body that is producing those feelings, a body which has now been diagnosed as wrong. If that body is wrong, how can we trust the feelings that it produces? Either the whole biochemical makeup of this person needs correction, or it does.
It's not one extreme or the other. It's not all right or all wrong. It's just poor thinking.
And therefore their psychology and self-perception needs correction. Now, maybe at that point they might say, this is way more than feelings. This is something I experience within the deepest aspect of my being and nature, perhaps within my soul even, something that transcends.
Hey, that's the same as the description. Okay.
The body and the physical form. But the only thing that can transcend the body is something of a spiritual nature, something like a soul.
So now he's saying y'all believe in trans people but not in God, but then you're saying your soul, which is given to you by God, is telling you you're trans, but you don't believe in God who told you you're trans? This is crazy.
If we're going to make that claim, then we've gone beyond the standard approach to objective inquiry, which is the scientific standard.
Yeah, this is such a like interesting way of coming at this. I've never heard it like this before. This is sophisticated. It's stupid, but it's sophisticated.
Run into the spiritual and the religious.
Wow.
And so what a person in that case is fundamentally claiming is something of a religious nature. Now,
you know what though? He earned the trans religion title. This is not clickbait. This is a solid argument. Like, it's stupid, but it's, wow, I'm impressed.
Liberal democratic times, right? For the most part, I think, which means that we are promised religious freedom. And if a person wants to adopt a religious belief that says the most fundamental aspect of the human person is invisible, it's an incorporeal soul, and it is entirely
incorporeal. Echo, what does incorporeal mean?
The adjective incorporeal is usually defined as not corporeal or material, insubstantial.
Insubstantial? That would be a synonym? Yikes.
Independent of the body and should not be restricted by the body, such that if the body communicates something the soul doesn't agree with, then the body should be held to be wrong and in need of correction if so desired. Well, okay then. And in fact, that isn't a very new religious idea. It's actually quite ancient. Plato taught that the soul pre-exists the body and is currently trapped in physical form until it will eventually be liberated through philosophical understanding and wisdom. He taught that the physical reality we experience in this life is only a shadow of actual reality, and that our goal should be to transcend the physical in order to achieve union with the divine in the most authentic reality that there is. And Gnosticism is an ancient esoteric religious system that believed that the physical world was corrupt, and that our goal in this life should be to liberate ourselves from it, which is why I can see a person with Gnostic sensibilities finding much to appreciate in the claims of a trans person who says that their body is wrong according to the perception of their soul. So if the whole theory of gender fluidity is based on human nature being something more than can be seen or measured scientifically, and that this something more is like a soul trapped in an incompatible body, then it seems to me that what you're talking about is a religion, a Gnostic religion. But here's the thing.
Interesting. I don't know if I necessarily even disagree with him, because a lot of people are born into this idea of believing in a God. And if you are comparing that to being born believing that you are trans, like, it stands to reason you would be trans your entire life, but at some point you would realize and then potentially take the steps to transition, it's not necessarily something that is still a choice. It's still who you are. And a lot of religious people argue that God is God and God made you, and it doesn't matter if you believe in him or not, that he's real. So I can see the similarities there. Wow. This is wild.
True that we live in a liberal society, then nobody should be forced to adopt someone else's religious beliefs.
Oh, that's why he's doing this. Okay.
There is no state-sanctioned religion according to the premises of liberalism and liberal democracy. Religious tolerance, rather than imposition, is supposed to be the practice of the day. Yet, this apparent religion has been urgently adopted.
Oh, but there's no, like, what would we define as a religion? Because even though we understand what he's been talking about this whole time, there's no belief in a deity. There's no, like, he's just comparing this one aspect of being queer to that of a spiritual experience that, by his claim, requires a soul. And a soul is something you can only have if you believe in a religion. That's the only criteria that it takes to be a religion. Even though there's no God belief, if being trans was a religion.
And taught in schools, both grade school and post-secondary.
It's not taught in schools. It's just that queer people exist in schools, staff and students alike. So it's not being taught, it's just there. It's just a part of life.
Promoted in our media, people are being forced by threat of job loss if they do not embrace Gnostic practices, like introducing yourself by pronouns that have nothing to do with your body.
Pronouns that have nothing to do with your body? I don't really understand that sentence, because most people are cisgender, so they would have something to do with your body by his argument, right? Like if he said he, him, it's just a part of who you are. Snowflake.
Anyone who pushes back against these religious doctrines are threatened with social denunciation, economic consequences, and even in some places, criminal proceedings. So it seems to me that we've
if you're a hateful bigot,
now been duped into adopting a religion which has taken root in many, if not all, of our most important institutions.
Wow.
They even adorn government facilities in its symbolism. And for those of us who have alternative and incompatible religious beliefs, in my case Christianity, which believes God created the physical world as something good and our bodies as good and fit to be embraced.
What is that? He thinks the world is good and the trans religion thinks that the world is bad? Is that what he just inferred?
We find ourselves the subject of ridicule, of social and political exclusion, and often worse than that.
Not to sound insensitive, but boo fucking who, you know? That was insensitive, but I think I do mean it.
I don't think that in a liberal society, the state should force anyone to endorse my beliefs or even concede to them. I don't think people should have to put their favorite Bible verse on their name tag or their email signature or their business cards.
But that's not the same thing, you goober.
I don't think anyone should have to recite the Nicene Creed at the start of their workday. I don't think they should be forced to address people according to their religious identity. And I don't think my religious symbols should be hung over government institutions and that all of its employees and citizens brought out to honor it as it's raised. But that is what is going on with the trans religious ideologies that are being forced upon everyone.
I think I've said pretty much everything that there is to say about this guy. This is interesting. This was a good find.
It's an ism in the truest sense of being a cult religion. It has all the hallmarks of a cult religion. It has pageantry.
Okay, but so does Christianity, and you're a Christian. So you're doing the exact same thing, just from the other side in his argument? Yeah.
And performance. It has rituals. It has creedal statements that people are expected to recite. It enforces severe forms of social isolation for dissenters. It wedges itself.
Oh, God. Yeah, but there's not years of genocide attached to it, so I think the trans Christianity wins overall.
In adherence.
Sorry, trans religion. I'm crashing out a little bit. This guy is taking a lot of my energy.
Their families. It speaks of salvation, that unless people, children included, have access to its sacraments, they will suffer greatly or even...
Its sacraments. Top surgery is a sacrament.
lost. This is a matter of life or death, we're told, but with no way to verify the veracity of that claim. And in fact,
there is a way to verify that claim, because trans folks who get gender affirming care have better mental health outcomes than people who don't. Like, the rates of suicidality amongst trans people are very quite high, but yesterday I read something really interesting, is that if a trans person has one person in their life who affirms them, their suicidality is consistent to that of a cisgender person, but it dramatically rises if there's not a single person in that trans person's life who affirms them. So in this case, if you grew up in this family where this man was your father, your suicidality rate would be off the charts. So that data is maybe what you could look at. And then I saw like people in the comments saying if you compare being transgender to that of being anorexic, it's a little bit different between being that, having an ED, and being trans, but okay.
Studies have shown that gender-affirming care does nothing to improve mental health outcomes. One massive study that showed that puberty blockers in kids does not improve their mental health was suppressed by one of its researchers, Dr. Joanna Olson Kennedy, because it yielded evidence that didn't align with her ideology.
I wish he would have shown that research that he just mentioned, because I would have looked at it. There's a lot of biases that go on, but I could be fully wrong. I just, from everything that I've seen up to this point, I'm not, but I'd read it. He's about to go on to say that a trans woman stabbed a bunch of people, and that's why trans people are awful. That's what's coming.
Clearly an adherent of this Gnostic religion attacked their children with a knife, stabbing one and severing the esophagus of another.
Okay, horrendous. Probably didn't have anything to do with the fact that she was trans. Unfortunately, tragic things like that happen all the time with cis folks as well. It's a problem, but not because of the trans part.
Reportedly 8 years old and has a very long and difficult recovery in hospital ahead of them.
Yeah, them, inclusive woke, it's just bad arguments.
This suspect was charged with aggravated assault, somehow not attempted murder, then brought before a judge and immediately released until their next hearing.
Okay, the justice system is awful and broken. Next, we agree.
A few weeks from now. They posted on social media that they were sorry, and that as a resolution of the whole affair, they said, "I'll just take my space and do my therapy," as if that's the only consequence that should bear upon this situation. Naturally, of course, there's a publication ban on the story because we don't want to jeopardize members of the official state religion.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Show us proof then. I would believe you if there was proof. We need the receipts.
They were also apparently streaming themselves playing video games on YouTube the very next day. Now, I'm not an advocate or an adherent of liberalism as a philosophy. I don't think liberty is our highest good, because when liberty is given a higher esteem or priority than sanity or virtue, we risk indulging insanity, which is apparently the phase that we've now arrived at as a liberal society. And we no longer possess the moral fortitude to even protect children who are victims of its effects.
But if we're looking historically at the way that children have been treated in terms of religion, you're not about to tell me that yours is any better.
It tells you that your body is incompatible and worthy of mutilation should you find some deeper sense of yourself telling you that, is one that should not be tolerated by any civilized society.
I guess really the whole subtext here is don't trust yourself, trust God. And you can't listen to yourself, because if you listen to yourself and your instincts, then that's a threat to people growing their religion. So that makes sense that he's saying that.
This is what mental insanity has always been characterized by. People who believe things about themselves and the world which are obviously untrue. People have always believed things about themselves, like that they are God, or they are Julius Caesar, or they're from another planet. And we knew that such delusions meant that a person suffering psychosis of such a magnitude is in critical need of correction, not affirmation in their illusion.
So he's just advocating for asylums. He's like the pastor in Asylum, like American Horror Story, whatever season that was, where Adam Levine gets his arm ripped off in the first episode. Oh, nope. He is kind of creeping me out now. There's 1 minute left.
In this case, we've endorsed it, we've genuflected to it, we've raised its religious symbols over our civic institutions, and we've told any and all heretics to fear for their jobs, their social standing, and even their freedom in some cases, if they fail to offer their submission to it.
No, if you are a bigot and you pose a threat to that person. If you just keep your mouth shut, keep it moving, you wouldn't have any problems.
That's why liberalism fails. Liberalism promotes freedom and tolerance above all else until it tolerates something so insidious that tyranny becomes inevitable. Okay, thanks for watching.
Whoa!
These videos and
okay. Whoa.
channel are only possible because
I don't
of your
like
support.
this.
So if you can spare some help, please consider making a
It's the
contribution
Jesus
through my
music
website
in
at
the back.
brianholdsworth.ca or join my locals community at brianholdsworth.locals.com, where you can interact with myself and other like-minded individuals. We actually just started a monthly Zoom meetup where we're studying some articles of St. Thomas Aquinas in his Summa. So if that's interesting to you, then come join us there. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe.
That was a long pause. All right, so that's the end of his video here. That was really interesting. We've never watched a video quite like that, so you gotta let me know what you think about this man in the comments. I'd be really interested to know. Thanks for getting all the way to the end. I really appreciate your support. If you're interested in watching more Dismantling Hate videos, you can click on the playlist that rolls here on the end screen. If you want to hear my thoughts on things just like this, but in a more structured and academic way, you can listen to my podcast, D-Talk with David Day. And if you want to see me travel North America, you can catch that on my DSM travel vlog channel. Ooh, okay. Those are my calls to action, babes. Thanks for your support and for getting to the end, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the holy hell. It really goes to show that you can't trust hot people just because they're hot, because at some point they'll probably pull down their hair and look like a woodsman who's going to hate crime me. The more you know, am I right, ladies?